Let's take a look.
4.0. Your Excellencies President Ramaphosa and President Sanchez, it is my honor to request Minister Pando and Ambassador Pedro to sign the Memorandum of Understanding in the field of sports. Minister and Ambassador. Thank you, Minister and Ambassador. May you please remain seated where you were. Your Excellencies, President Ramaphosa and President Sanchez, it is again my honor to invite the Minister and Ambassador to sign the Memorandum of Understanding between the National Library of the Republic of South Africa and the National Library of the Government of the Kingdom of Spain. Thank you, Minister and Ambassador. You may now return to your seats. Your Excellencies, President Ramaphosa and President Sanchez, I have the honor to request Minister Patel and Ambassador Robredo to sign the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation on the Field of Industry 4.0. Thank you, Ministers. You may now return to your seats. We have come to the end of the signing ceremony. I would like to thank His Excellency President Ramaphosa and His Excellency President Sanchez for witnessing the beautiful ceremony. It is now my pleasure to hand over to Mr. Mokoena to facilitate the press briefing. Mr. Mokoena.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, we will now kick off our media briefing, which will commence with brief remarks from President Ramaphosa, to be followed by His Excellency President Sanchez. Thereafter, we'll open the floor to questions, and we'll take 3 questions from Spain, and we'll take 3 questions from the South African media contingency. Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa.
Thank you very much, and we'd like to welcome members of the media from their siesta. Welcome back here. Your Excellency, President Pedro Sánchez, ambassadors and ministers and officials, and of course members of the media. It's been a real honor and a great pleasure to receive His Excellency President Sanchez and his delegation to South Africa. We have just concluded very successful engagements, which, as you saw, have been crowned by the signing of 3 memoranda of understanding. And we've had an opportunity to exchange views and ideas on how to consolidate and deepen the bilateral relations between our 2 countries. And we have underlined this with a commitment to make our bilateral relations work much more better, with Spain having a very great desire that South Africa should be a great ally and a friend, just beyond even trade issues, as it has manifested itself in a number of ways where we've been dealing with each other. I'm pleased to indicate that we've held in-depth discussions, yes, on trade and investment issues between our 2 countries, and have had the opportunity to look very closely at the areas where our 2 countries deal with each other. Trade between our 2 countries has been growing, and we are both great producers on citrus, with Spain being the largest citrus producer and South Africa being the second. And we both appreciated the role that we play in this sector of the agricultural landscape. And we also raised issues that we see impeding our trade dealings, particularly in relation to Europe. And we asked President Sanchez and his delegation to have these matters raised because we would like to see solutions with regard to ensuring that our citrus does get through to European countries, particularly in view of the fact that a number of citrus producers, we're seeing a number of black citrus producers coming through, and as we are committed to inclusive growth in our country, where all citizens of our country should participate meaningfully in the economy of our country, would like to promote more and more of our black people participating in this sector. And we do not want to see a situation where, as they start to participate, there are restrictions and blockages and impediments in their way. Citrus industry employs well over 130,000 people in our country, and Europe is an important market for us and would like to see solutions being brought to bear on some of the challenges. I'm pleased that in our discussions with President Sanchez and his delegation, there is a commitment to address this matter and find solutions, and that is what has underpinned the discussions between us. Later today, President Sanchez and I will engage with business leaders from Spain and South Africa at a business forum. South Africa is greatly encouraged by Spain's interests and investment in sectors that are key to the development and growth of our country. It is only through collaboration, which both of us underlined and underpinned, as well as foreign direct investment and a growing trade, that we can overcome the challenges that we face as South Africa, which is poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We also had an opportunity to discuss issues of regional and international importance. South Africa and Spain are fully committed to preserving and strengthening the rules-based multilateral system as the primary instrument for the resolution of conflicts. And in fact, we both underlined a very important aspect that is common between the two countries, that we support the bringing about of solutions to conflict through discussion and peaceful methods and collaboration. We pledge to work together to achieve a prosperous, secure, and peaceful future for those areas on our respective continents that are facing instability and conflict. With less than a month to go before the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, which will be held in Egypt, we discussed avenues for collaboration as part of the global response to combat climate change. We also had an opportunity to discuss the agreement that was reached at COP26 and reiterated our commitment as South Africa that it should go ahead and be implemented. We, however, raised the issue of the funding, and that the funding needs to be recalibrated as to enable us as South Africa to be able to embark on the transition much more effectively. South Africa and Spain agree that climate change, the loss of biological diversity, and other environmental challenges must be addressed within the context of sustainable development, particularly for those who are in areas that are vulnerable and will be negatively affected by the transition that we foresee. An important part of our collective responses to climate change is increased support for green, sustainable energy policies and technology. Now, several Spanish companies are active in South Africa, particularly in the renewable space, and we want to see such investments expanded. This is a call that I'll be making at the Business Forum later today when we meet business people from both sides. We welcome Spain's interest in collaborating on our national effort to achieve a just transition and a low carbon, climate change resilient economy and society. President Sanchez and I reaffirmed the bonds of friendship and solidarity that exists between our two nations. We took time to express our gratitude to Spain for the support that they demonstrated in providing financial resources to COVAX during the height of the pandemic. COVAX, which was a facility and funding facility that was set up to fund the acquisition of vaccines for developing world countries. We also took time to thank Spain for making up to 60 million doses of vaccines available, especially to African countries. We were also able to express our gratitude for Spain's support to the initiative that India and South Africa had put forward to the World Trading Organization with regard to the waiver of the TRIPS regulation. And we look forward to a continued engagement between Spain and South Africa on a number of other areas. We believe that our relationship with Spain is firm and it can only grow better and stronger as we continue with our engagements. And of course, the small print in that agreement that we've signed on sport was also to remind Spain that we enabled Spain to win the 2010 FIFA World Cup, and in every support that they can offer, they must also remember that we were very, very kind to them, and they became world champions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I can tell you, all Spaniards, we remember the goal that Andrés Iniesta made in that very important final for the history of the Spanish soccer national team. Allow me to intervene in Spanish. Buenas tardes. Comparezco para dar cuenta de
in 2 days I start in the coming to Africa. This is the first time to visit Africa. Is very important. This is strategic in exterior link. We have solidarity with Spanish country to Mr. President Ramaphosa is the very important the transition technological revolution, Ukrainian crisis. Mr. Ramaphosa to reinforce our bilateral communities, commercial and more relevant. South Africa has a very strong potential, economic, geographical, big opportunities for the society and for the humanities as well. Export of stability. This puts South Africa in a point special for Africa 2023. South Africa is an anchor country with a bilateral comunidad. All the hospitality and thanks to Mr. Ramaphosa and all the discussion that we had, a lot of opportunity in different sectors to strong our context in the invasion of Russia to Ukraine, recuperation of the economic about COVID. South Africa is playing a good role based in rule and human rights, and that vision shared is a base with bilateral cooperation in the case del COP27 that is gonna be in Egypt and Indonesia in the next week. There is a declaration to push our declaration in several points. Both societies, both nations, according the consultation, national as well, we signed memos for commercial relationship. Mr. Ramaphosa said we're going to share an important forum, Pan-African, and share our enterprises to keep our companies in South Africa. I told to Mr. Ramaphosa sustainable energy, water, to invest in our country, in this country. We're going to put in this country the next 5 years 215 billion with objective to implement the Spanish companies in the African sector. In between a public enterprise que confine in South Africa to cooperate both together. I would like it as well to translate the invitation to Mr. Ramaphosa when he can have a point in the agenda to visit us. I would like to finish with an emphasis on the investigations, research, the scientific people in South Africa. All these characteristics in Africa, I had a very wonderful impression. The scientific, several areas and universities in the country, in South Africa, they are giving important points to extend all this in several African countries for research and Spanish research to expand in the rest of the African continent, where in an increasement on the 4% to continue to work in research and education. I would like finally to this afternoon I would like to visit one of the most important monuments, Constitution Hill in Johannesburg. I would like to tribute fighting for liberty. Is very grateful. Is a democratic thought to inspire the whole world, Mr. President. South Africa is a political space to collaborate between the researchers and the community. I would like to talk positive bilateral speaking between Africa, South Africa, and Spain.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.
Thank you.
We will now open the floor to questions. And maybe we can start with our visitors first. If I can see a hand from colleagues from Spain, if you could kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you very much.
And start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ángel Carreira, de Antena 3 Noticias. Tengo una pregunta para ambos, como han comentado en sus comparecencias hace unos días, volverán a coincidir en la cumbre del G20 en Bali.
El G20, G20 in Bali.
a esa cumbre y si esa presencia fuera así, esto pudiera ser un
she
buen
was
momento, una
invited the Russian president to that
en la
conference
invasión de Ucrania.
in the
Una pregunta
invasion
para el
of
presidente Sánchez,
Ukraine.
sobre la
A question
comprometida
to
reforma del delito de
President
sedición. A usted no
Sánchez.
sabemos si le consta
We
que el
don't
Partido Popular
know
haya puesto como
the
condición
Popular
para
Party
renovar ese
to
consejo, que no se
renew
reforme el
that
delito de sedición y si es así,
concept
si se mantiene
that
ese compromiso
este
de reformar el delito del Código Penal. Gracias.
in the penal code.
Muchísimas gracias, Ángel, por sus preguntas. En relación con la primera de las preguntas, no desconozco si el presidente Putin irá.
Thank you for. We don't know if Mr. Putin is going to go
más allá de decir lo que
to the G20. Respect to the conflict. The conflict exposed all where Europe and Spain were peace countries to take the diplomatic way and the international respect all the principal
el respeto a la integridad territorial, la soberanía nacional,
sovereignty
decidir libremente cuál
and the people to decide what is the future. In this parameter, we are continuing behaving the stop of hostility.
Varias cuestiones. La primera es la agenda
Many
legislativa del
questions. All esta agenda from every government, I explain what they got to plan the Spanish government. All the last 3 years, very low help, necessity of greater help to enfront economic consequences, economic and social and our economy and Spain. One thing is the legislative age, esta agenda. All the Popular Party was very fluid, and on these three years, and another thing is the constitutional. That is in a crisis, constitutional crisis, 4-year blockaded every democracy and the judicial power. So when we call our obligations, what I can say is the agreement it is ready. We have to. All the parliamentary group, we yes or we don't want to renew the Spanish government. We say sí, we say yes in a strong way.
Thank you. Next question, Natasha.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yes. Hi, Prime Minister. My name is Natasha Phiri from SABC News. So, President Ramaphosa, I understand that the Prime Minister Sánchez had formed a minority coalition government in Spain, right? And seeing what's happening in the city of Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, what lessons can South Africa learn from Spain? More specifically, because it seems as if our country is actually headed that way. So what lessons can you learn? Thank you.
Well, I can say that.
Sorry, Mr. President. Sorry, another one. Sorry, Vincent. Just on the citrus, I forgot that. Just between the two countries, what were your discussions about the protectionist tendencies that are hurting our agriculture, specifically in the citrus sector? Thank you.
Well, on the issue of coalitions, there is a lot that we can learn from the various countries that have been well steeped in democratic parliamentary systems over a long time than we have. And so Spain and a number of countries have a lot of lessons that they can offer us, and we can also learn from the very positive things they've done and their mistakes. So as we also traverse our way through managing coalitions, we are also learning from our own errors and our own positive steps. And so let democracy be at play, but it's also underpinned by the rule of law. In a number of cases, some of the initiatives or interventions that have been embarked upon have been subjected to our law processes, our constitutional processes. Some of them have been deemed unconstitutional and invalid, and we abide by that, confirming that South Africa is not only underpinned by human rights, but also by the rule of law. So as we traverse this journey, we are learning from others, as well as learning from ourselves. And as you may recall, when we drafted our own constitution, we took time to learn from the constitutions of many countries around the world. And some of the provisions we have in our own constitutions were learned from other countries. When it comes to the issue that we discussed and raised with President Sanchez, we also raised the issue, as you correctly say, of the citrus issue, as well as the restrictions that we see are being imposed so as to impede trade. And what we got from Spain is a very open-minded type of approach that this matter needs to be discussed so that we find solutions. And that is what we appreciate. We did not find a roadblock or a wall. We found a very, very positive type of response, which President Sanchez was able to put to me, which in many ways will go a long way in strengthening our own relationship. Because as I said in my initial input, we have almost 130,000 workers employed in the citrus and related industries, our sector, and these restrictions are putting those jobs in danger. And they're also putting in danger our own transformation process, where we see more and more black people, women and men, getting into the citrus industry, growing trees and producing fruit to be exported to other countries. We want to continue on that transformation path. We've been exporting citrus for more than 100 years as South Africa, and we've entered a new era where new players have come to the fore as our production increases, as we seek to broaden our market. And the last thing we want is to see restrictions that are based on measures that can be looked at and resolved. So the positive approach that we've had is very, very comforting to us as we will seek to find solutions to all these. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm informed that there is a challenge with the translation. Would like to request the ambassador again to assist us before we kick off the second question. If you could please assist us with the translation. Okay, thank you.
Carry on.
Second question from Spain. If I can please see a hand. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Iñaki Aguado from Informativos Telecinco in Spain. Thank you for hosting us today. Buenas tardes a los dos. En primer lugar, tengo una pregunta para ambos. Me gustaría saber si consideran que
question
la
for
presencia
both.
que
The
la Unión
President,
Europea está
the
perdiendo
European
cierta influencia
Union
en el
is
continente
losing
africano frente a la influencia que pueda estar
influence in the
ganando países como
African
China o Rusia. Me gustaría saber si han hecho
continent
ese
that
análisis y si lo
I would
pueden
like to
compartir
make.
con
If
nosotros.
they
Y en
have
segundo lugar,
any
algunas cuestiones económicas para el presidente Sánchez. Hoy se han conocido
for
los datos de la EPA.
Mr. President Sanchez, I have some questions.
Se ralentiza la creación del empleo y me gustaría saber si
I would like to know if Mr. President Sanchez, which is the changes, optimism in the economic increase and consideration
va a volver a anunciar una subida importante de tipos. ¿Qué cree que debe hacer la
what
banca, el gobierno?
the bank was supposed to do.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Muchas gracias, Iñaki, por sus preguntas. En relación con la primera de las cuestiones, no lo hemos tratado.
Thank you a lot for your questions. The first part we didn't treat it in the African continent, in Europe. There is, with the question that we are working, so it was said, the economic themes, some active population, they are positive. They are registering since 2008 more than 20 million with unemployment, and I will show it in this context, insert very active and growing and generating employment, as well European institution. Spain is going to be one of the economy that's growing further. First, now all these organisms, they are provision. What is the impact and how much is going to last the Putin war in Ukraine? In very occasion, Spanish government is not going to come in to trust and employment in the. We have to send a message for trust to afford all this about the world, and the appropriate economic to keep our medium class in our country. We continue with the democratic history. From now to the 31st of December, we have to protect the enterprises, family of our country. Before, with President Ramaphosa, we had the importance of continue to deploy the development energies, the share of this load and all of this, the financial results, energetics, one or the other should justify to approve taxes, solidarity in this moment that we need to low down to the medium class taxes. Everybody must, in this case, in the energy, how we saw yet in the results. When the relation with this, the Vice President and Economist Calvino is speaking with financial, where as we did during the pandemic, and the government, Spanish government, to all these crises in the country.
Thank you. Govind?
Thank you so much. My name is Govind Whittles from Newsroom Africa. My question is for our president. Were you surprised when you saw the United States issue a terror alert for South Africa? And are you able to update the country on whether or not that warning was legitimate, considering that the date they issued it for is 2 days away? And secondly, for the Spanish president, earlier in October, the Spanish government wrote to the European Union requesting that additional measures be implemented on the import of South African citrus into the EU. Has South Africa agreed that those additional measures are necessary, or have you changed your position on whether they are necessary? Thank you.
It was quite unfortunate that the US government issued that type of warning without having had deep dive type of discussions with us. But following that, we were able to engage them and to get to understand precisely where this warning or information has come from. We are in the course of doing precisely that, because warnings such as those do send a lot of panic amongst our people, and South Africans should be best informed by the South African government. Our agencies, as they are getting better at their job of securing our people, are alert and are looking very closely at this type of threat, and they continue to do so. So any form of alert will come from the government of the Republic of South Africa, and it is unfortunate that another government should issue such a threat as to send panic amongst our people. So the South African government is working around the clock to verify and to look very closely at this message that came from the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. A quick response, I would say that the good news from this bilateral meeting that we had is that we're going to find solutions to this situation. And I think this is the main idea that I would like to share with of course, the public opinion, which is that we are going to work together also in Brussels in order to find solutions to this situation.
I'd like to add on that and say we did raise this issue with the President of the European Union, Mr. Charles Michel, when he was here. And we've raised it once again with President Sanchez. And we appreciate the approach that Spain is taking on this matter, because it's important that Europe should relate to African countries and also to our country, South Africa, on an equal basis. It should never be a paternalistic relationship. It should be a relationship of equals, but also a relationship that is based on our historical understanding of what happened in the past. We cannot wash away what happened in the past, the way that African countries were disempowered through a colonial system that held them back from their own economic development. We're now at a stage where we're seeking ourselves to develop our economies. And the last thing that we want, that is needed, is for us to be held back by strictures, by rules that don't really have a robust scientific bearing. And it is in this regard that we are raising some of these restrictions that are being put forward and saying they are restricting trade, but more than that, they are actually devastating the livelihoods of many people, not only in South Africa, but on our continent. And we would like, on a very sort of friendly basis, with good understanding between countries, that these matters should be taken seriously. And for us, time is of the essence. And we've seen slowness in dealing with these matters. And we want to reiterate that time is of the essence because many of our people are unemployed, they are poor, and there's a great deal of inequality. And these are challenges that the northern countries, West or European countries, must support us in addressing these, because they, in part, did play a role in disempowering many countries on our continent. So let's work together, and it is for that reason that I really appreciate the approach that President Sanchez has taken on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Last round of questions. Sophie? After you, Sophie, I'll take one question from Spain, and then that will be a wrap.
Thank you. I'm Raúl Peña from El Mundo newspaper. Tenía dos preguntas para el presidente Sánchez. Si me
I have two questions for
Acaba de decir ahora mismo que el acuerdo para reformar el Poder Judicial está listo, está preparado. Entendemos, por lo tanto, que solo falta la firma.
The only is missing the signature. Why is not signed yet? You can ensure
estará sentada en el próximo Consejo General del Poder
in
Judicial.
the next
Y sobre la reforma del delito de sedición, tanto sus socios Esquerra como el principal partido de la oposición, el PP,
the opposition party, the PP, has studied to the Congress the government, which is the proposal. The government is going to take the penal code, how you're going to take it, and you're going to take it to the dialogue the table. When this year finishes.
En relación con la primera de las preguntas,
First, with the first question, I would like
me ha dicho candidatos que nunca jamás hayan estado en
the candidate,
nunca jamás.
the candidate that they never been in that position.
En
First,
relación con el acuerdo del Consejo General del Poder Judicial.
with the judicial power,
En un encuentro que tuve con
yesterday I had an encounter with. Just now we are very close to get into an agreement. It's a very useful news to get an agreement, to get a position, a balanced position for the Popular Party and the government of Spain to comply with the constitutional power to put a constitutional crisis with the division of with the further president of the judicial constitution. We can discuss about the page of the government. In my speech, that is the democracy, to be in favor, to be against, and to comply with the Constitution. All we can deblock the situation for the good of our country and democracy. The second question, in many occasions, Spanish government consider first the situation in Catalonia is much better than in October 2017. The political crisis in 40 years of democracy must be resolved for political causes, and from there one of the first lessons that we have learned is in 2017 is the necessity to the European context that we develop, and also will belong to that, and that is what the government of Spain it is doing. Thank you very much, Sophie.
My question is directed to the two leaders. You spoke, Mr. President, about what happened yesterday in relation to the United States of America. When you look at the Sahel region, there's a serious challenge in terms of the insurgents, and you go down south, Cabo Delgado. Did you discuss the current problem of growing number of these groups in terms of fighting terror? And then the second question, the issue of COP27, you spoke about funding, Mr. President, or financing. What are the sticking points? And then finally, the issue of Africans perishing in the Mediterranean Sea, trying to cross to Europe. Countries such as Italy and Spain, you receive a lot of migrants from the continent, and they are being abused, harassed. We saw what happened in June in Morocco. Many died. What are you doing about this?
Well, I completely agree that migration is a common challenge that we, Africa and Europe, we are facing. First, I think that we need to address the issue of smugglers and human trafficking. Mm-hmm. Second, I would say that Spain is one of the countries that are developing circular, regular migration. Mm-hmm. So we don't see migration as a threat, but as an opportunity for the development of the country of origin, but of course, the country that receive that migration. In the case of Spain, we receive a lot of migration from Africa, but especially from Central America and South America. Mm-hmm. Because we have, we share the same language, more or less the same culture. And lastly, I would say that it's important to cooperate with the countries of origin and the countries of transit of that migration. This is what we are doing with Algeria, with Morocco, with Mauritania. And of course, we are increasing our cooperation and collaboration with countries of origin, for instance, in the case of Spain, mainly sub-Saharan countries, the Sahel mainly, Mali especially. So, I think it's important to see all the multidimensional I would say perspectives of the migration issue, and to have a humanistic approach, which I think it's important. No, I was remembering when you were asking this question that Spain, during the Civil War back in the 30s of last century, and over 40 years that we suffered dictatorship, many of our citizens left Spain and went to South America or Central America. Some of them went to Algeria, or even, of course, to many countries in Europe. So, in a way, I think that heritage, that history, also means that the Spanish society, in I would say in a major percentage, is very open to accept migration and to integrate migration in our society or within our society.
Thank you. We did speak about the issue of insecurity around the world, especially on our continent, and we did zero it down to the conflict that's happening in the northern part of Mozambique, in Cabo Delgado, and we appreciated the focus that a number of countries that have been coming to the assistance of Mozambique are doing, and Spain is one of those that has offered assistance, a form of training, and we outlined to the President that South Africa, we have put boots on the soil, on the ground, and together with other countries in SADC, we are assisting Mozambique on the basis of our common solidarity in SADC, and we are pushing those groups back. And of course, there's still a lot more that needs to be done to ensure that there is full peace and security. And that is our main objective. And I very much also appreciated the message from President Sanchez in relation to that, that in the end, we should also seek to find solutions through collaboration, through discussions, so that we can secure the peace. In relation to COP27, yes, there is an offer that has been put on the table, and as we raise the issue of the financing, we are also raising the adequacy of that financing and also the composition of that financing. And so we are going to be having discussions with our partners in this regard in a very positive manner to see how best we can navigate our way through the just transition so that we don't leave anyone behind, and particularly the vulnerable communities that are going to be negatively affected as we transit from one source of coal to another. So we are going to have interesting discussions as we go to COP27. Just to comment very briefly on the issue of migration, and I couldn't agree with President Sanchez more to say that we should also see the issue of migration as an opportunity where the contributing countries can be supported. And the one issue that we have often raised, which is another dynamic in this whole situation, is that sanctions that have been applied to various countries, and especially on our continent, sanctions applied, for instance, to Zimbabwe, are having a negative impact, not only on Zimbabwe's economy, but also on a number of countries in SADC. They are also having a negative impact on us, because as the sanctions weaken the Zimbabwean economy, Zimbabweans then tend to migrate and leave and come to our own country and other countries in the sub-region. They flow to Botswana, they flow to South Africa, to Namibia, and then they exert enormous pressure on us. Like you, we've always been, as South Africans, been very open to the inflow of people from various parts of the continent. But with economic challenges that our people are now facing through unemployment, inequality, the pressure becomes even greater. And we become concerned when countries that are applying sanctions continue to do so to weaken those countries that are contributing migrants to other countries, are disinterested and actually don't even seem to care what the impact is, because they are targeting certain either individuals or certain countries, and the impact is much broader than that. And we are saying those sanctions should be lifted. And we should be able to bolster the economies of those countries so that people can have less of an incentive to leave their countries to go to other countries because their countries' economies will be growing. So once again, we call on the various countries that have applied sanctions, particularly on Zimbabwe, to lift those sanctions so that the economy of Zimbabwe can get back on its feet and they can be the economy that they used to be. And in that way, Zimbabweans who have left Zimbabwe will find great incentive to go back and to lead normal lives in their own country. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Your Excellencies, you may take leave of us. Thank you.
Wonderful. That was good.